pleased to welcome Senator Pat Roberts, who served as a senior senator from Kansas since 1997. He's the only person to serve as chairman of both the House Agriculture Committee and the Senate Agriculture Committee. He previously served as chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and we are just delighted to have him with us this afternoon to wrap up our summit. Thanks for being here today, Chairman Roberts, and now we're going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sarah. I don't know if I can top a squirming calf like Zippy had, but maybe a reticent elephant. I'm not quite sure. But thank you to the entire Agri-Pulse team for inviting me to join today. Your theme, the critical links between food security and national security, is most timely, extremely important. My perspective on this topic has been shaped by my time as a Marine, and then the first chairman of the newly formed Emerging Threats Subcommittee of the Armed Services Committee, and then chairman of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and of course my time as chairman of the House and Senate Agriculture Committees. That's quite a background, and I've been very privileged, to say the least. It's been quite a year for American agriculture, and certainly so for American consumers. But you know, perhaps for the first time since the Great Depression, the significance of food security has resonated throughout the entire agriculture and food value chain, impacting nearly every kitchen table around the country, and for that matter, all around the world. We continue to learn hard and much needed lessons about the safety and security as we persevere through the COVID-19 pandemic. As the public health battle is being waged against COVID-19, we have faced severe economic blows as businesses have been shuttered and people experience job uncertainty and job loss. Almost immediately, we encountered supply chain challenges as food processing and handling facilities were impacted. Restaurant demand changed drastically, and global impacts were felt as well. COVID-19 did not impact animal health. It is a human health crisis that has had a tremendous impact on food supply chains and systems that few anticipated. So today we find ourselves in a rather brave new world. We must take a fresh look at what agriculture security means in terms of the defense of the agriculture sector and food supply. As COVID-19 has demonstrated, if any singular component in that food supply chain is vulnerable or harmed, the seeds, the plants, the feed, animals, workers, infrastructure, significant challenges can result, and they have resulted. So while we continue to adopt and respond to this new and unique crisis, the idea that food security is directly linked to national security has become much more apparent, though this fact certainly is not new. During my time in public service, national security, especially as it relates to agriculture security, has become an increasingly important priority. And I know many of you have also devoted energy to the threat of animal and plant disease. You do understand the impact it can have on the economic and national security of our country. Over the years, we've worked to try to meet these challenges by identifying vulnerabilities and enacting policy that allows the agriculture sector to be better prepared. And we have taken significant and important steps in the agriculture security arena, especially as it relates to animal disease preparedness. We directed in the 2018 Farm Bill $300 million in mandatory funding to a new animal health program. It builds off the existing National Animal Health Laboratory Network. We also created the National Animal Vaccine and Veterinary Countermeasures Bank, a new cooperative agreement and a program with states, universities, other partners to bolster our animal health infrastructure. The 2018 Farm Bill established the Agriculture Advanced Research and Development Authority, or AGARDA, similar to the authorities that other agencies like DARPA and BARDA. This Advanced Research and Development Authority prioritizes efforts to prevent and protect against and prepare for intentional and unintentional threats to agriculture and our food. In 2019, I was pleased to co-sponsor the Protecting America's Food and Agriculture Act. It did pass Congress earlier this year, and President Trump signed it into law in March of 2020. The law will improve the safety of U.S. agriculture and the food supply by increasing resources direct to our ports of entry and our Customs and Borders Patrol Inspector Force. It will help prevent the introduction of dangerous pathogens, biological threats, and illegal agriculture goods from entering the United States. With the movement of goods and all around the world and the complex threats posed by animal and plant diseases, this is an investment very well made. The Department of Agriculture and Homeland Security, along with many other agencies tasked with protecting our nation, must be really coordinated, and they must continue the commitment to remain vigilant against emerging threats, whether intentional or naturally occurring. Even with the immense focus and work that has focused on preparing for a catastrophic animal or plant disease outbreak, we are learning in real time that less direct threats can have just as severe and lasting impact on American agriculture. Most of the viral diseases in the world have animal origins. Those diseases can be devastating to our animals, our food supply, and yes, even people. Of significant importance is the establishment and construction of the National Bio-Agro-Defense Facility, or NBAF, which will soon be operating in Kansas. This facility will be a vital national security laboratory asset. It will provide for critical research and development, and it will have diagnostic and training capabilities for emerging zoonotic and foreign animal diseases. As always has been the case, coordination is absolutely paramount. The Department of Agriculture must work hand in hand with relevant agencies like the Department of H2S, Health and Human Services, as well as the Department of Homeland Security. COVID-19 is a zoonotic disease, most likely originating from animals, which became a human pandemic. The USDA has a critical role in supporting the Department of Health and Human Services in responding to this crisis, and the agencies must work together to prepare for potential future pandemics. It will also take a coordinated effort between the federal family, the partnership of our state governments, our universities, and the private sector. We're in a better place today, I think, to react to zoonotic diseases and further scientific understanding of such diseases, but obviously it is clear we have a great deal of work to do, especially as it relates to human health and disease preparedness. So we have to take a hard look at the challenges we have been facing over the last year and thoughtfully, if that's possible in this Congress, determine how to apply the lessons learned moving forward. These lessons are not limited to our country. COVID-19 is having an impact on global food security as well. The pandemic has further strained food security around the world, especially in regions that already face food shortages due to economic factors, weather, and political unrest and other hardships. I think you've heard me many times before. Show me a nation that cannot feed itself, I will show you a nation in chaos. The United States must continue to play an active role in feeding a troubled and hungry world. There is no greater threat to national security than food insecurity. Despite the incredible challenges we have faced over the last year, we will continue to face for quite some time. I am optimistic that we will come out of this stronger than ever before. We must commit to work together to ensure that we continue to build a vibrant, safe, and secure future for our generations to come. I want to thank you, especially Agri-Pulse, all the commodity groups, all of the farm organizations, everybody in between, for all of your support on these efforts over the years. Thank you for having me today. I'd be glad to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Chairman Roberts. That was great to hear from you. I'd like to go ahead and start while we're inviting questions to come in from the audience and ask you a little bit about something that I know has been near and dear to your heart, and that is the memorial that you were recently able to commission of General Dwight Eisenhower, who is looks really good over your shoulder there. I listened to your speech and it brought back memories of the sacrifices that so many Americans were asked to make, including victory gardens and trying to grow their own food so that we had enough for our troops. And I just wondered if you would care to relate a little bit about your memories of Eisenhower's leadership and those times when we were asking people to make a lot more sacrifices on behalf of what was clearly a military threat at that time.
Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. I'm one of the few members of Congress who actually met Eisenhower. I was a sophomore in high school and met him at the convention in 1952 in Chicago. And I can tell you that when I came in the room, I had my back to him, but you knew that somebody special had really entered the room. He had that charisma, very ruddy face, a brilliant, brilliant smile. Matter of fact, I was sitting down, 3 rows down, and he came around and was shaking hands with everybody and actually ignored some people off to my left and came right down to me, sort of scared me to death, but at any rate said, "And young man, how are you?" And I said, "Just fine, sir." You know, saluted. And so for me, it was personal. My dad was very active in that campaign and helped enable a first ballot victory in a convention, the last convention really that determined the president, as opposed to all the primaries we're holding today. Maybe that's something we should go back to. But he did win on the first ballot. He came to that victory having been the Supreme Allied Commander of World War II. He defeated Nazi tyranny. He saved Western democracy in Europe, and for that matter, all around the world. And later, obviously, became the President of the United States. And we had 8 years of peace and prosperity. I know a lot of authors write a lot about presidents that face threats, and I understand that. But here we had a president who avoided threats, made it possible for us to get past those by delegating not responsibility but authority to his cabinet. And simply because of our position in the world, really Eisenhower provided a leadership role for America to be preeminent on the world stage. So that was the tremendous role that he played. I will add one other thing. There is a marble piece right at the entrance, and a young Eisenhower looking off to his left. And there is a statement by Eisenhower that he made in Kansas, where over 250,000 people met him in Abilene after he came back from the war. And he said something like, "In every man there's a boy, and that boy yearns that with his upbringing and his teachers and his family and his friends, that someday he could come back to his hometown and be proud of what he achieved, whether it be," and I think he lists a policeman, that would be very apropos today, and a locomotive engineer, whatever. But then he said, "As I look back over the span of years and what I have been part of," he didn't take credit for it, but what I've been part of, he said, "I come back with a very humble message. The proudest thing I can say is I come from Abilene, Kansas." And I thought it's very, very noteworthy. Should be a message to every youngster, more especially in an agriculture community, maybe a small town youngster. Somebody over at the Air and Space Museum that has a group of youngsters could say, "Well, let's go see Ike." And maybe some of the youngsters go, who's Ike? Well, how many people here came from a small town with agriculture roots? And hands raised, they can say, let's see what a young man who dreamed big and went to West Point, and then what he achieved, and winning a war, saving Western democracy, and then providing 8 years of peace and prosperity, what he achieved. This has been going on now for quite a while. It's taken me 21 years as chairman to finally get this push across the line with a great staff, a lot of help, and a lot of supporters in the Congress once we get past the situation with the family understanding and support, which we have, and many thanks to them and all the people that have helped in this effort.
Well, thank you. I can't wait to see the memorial. I have been to his presidential library, which is quite nice, and so looking forward to learning more. So we're getting some other questions.
Go at nighttime, because that's when it's all lighted up, and then the tapestry, which is to feature Point de Hoc there and Normandy. The theme is Normandy of Peace. But when you go at night, it really lights up, and you can interpret like the Fine Arts Council did. That's the last group from the federal government that approved something. Once it got past me and everybody else, and they determined that squiggly lines would be appropriate as opposed to a more traditional look. But if you squint and you have your earphones on and it's nighttime, you can figure it out.
Okay. I'll make sure I go in the evening then. Thank you.
You bet.
So we are getting some questions in. We have one that was discussed a little earlier today when Senator Stabenow joined us, and that was on CCC replenishment. As you know, there's been quite a lot of discussion over that, and one of our questioners wants to know whether or not the fall benefits for ARC and PLC will still be paid without CCC replenishment. The questioner wants to know, is it really going to be necessary in the CR, or will farmers and lenders be able to still count on payments this fall without replenishment?
Well, I'm trying to figure out how do I get this damn list here on camera. 45 to 50 vital programs. Yes, ARC. Yes, PLC. Yes, specialty crops. Yes, I just go down the list. I'm not going to read them to you. But most of this involves what we passed with an 87 vote majority on the Farm Bill in 2018. I know that people have some differences of opinion, strong differences of opinion. But look, this is no time to have a fuss with the Secretary of Agriculture over what has happened in the past and those decisions that are being made. I know the original intent in talking to Colin Peterson about his proposal, and we visited about it with regards to whatever the Secretary decides on COVID in the next tranche or CCC funding or whatever it might be. That first he would be required to go back to the House Agriculture Committee, the Senate Agriculture Committee, open it up for 2 weeks, and then we would have an obligation to report back with him with suggestions. I understand that both the Senate and the House have a role. Both committees have a role, very strong roles with regards to farm bills that we write, and then the policy and how they are administered. We have oversight responsibility. But I just didn't think that was a very good idea. And this business of, now, that's no longer in the context of the conversation. It's just not voting during a CR for any kind of CCC funding, or for that matter, voting for CCC funding, period, because you're upset about how the department in the past has run this program or what they are proposing in regard to CCC down the road, which is unbelievably remarkable with regard to what the president has proposed and what the secretary is proposing, more especially for long-suffering wheat farmers and a lot of other people. But here, again, we're talking 45 to 50 programs that are in danger. And there's no answer to it other than just voting no because you have a difference of opinion with the secretary. That's not being responsible. And Senator Hoeven reserved some time, as he always usually does when the farm posse needs to ride. And we pointed that out, and I understand people have differences of opinion. I understand we have a pandemic with COVID-19. We have a pandemic of politics right now. We have a Supreme Court justice that that whole issue is brewing, if not, boiling over. Very difficult to get anything done now during the circumstances. The Grain Standards Act, the Livestock Reporting Act, and other proposals that other members have proposed with regards to the livestock sector. I understand all that. But to hold up CCC funding at this particular time is not in the best interest of American agriculture. And if you want me to get really wound up on it, why, ask me another question.
Well, it sounds like obviously you're quite passionate about the answer there. I guess the one thing is, that most people in American agriculture would like is some certainty, and it's been evasive most of this year. And
listen, we sold the farm program on certainty and predictability. How many times have we passed a farm bill to provide farmers, ranchers, and growers and the entire agriculture industry and everybody's related to it with certainty and predictability? Certainly their bankers or their lenders or their ag credit folks, all those folks. If there's ever a time after 5 or 6 years of this, with regards to prices below the cost of production, and my God, what Mother Nature has done to us, I don't know what the heck we've done to Mother Nature. I mean, honest to Pete. But talk about the beleaguered farmer here now for 5 or 6 years. We pass a farm bill, then all of a sudden, well, maybe this, maybe that. Consistency and predictability, we have to do a better job. Have to do a better job.
So another question came in from some of our friends with the National Association of Farm Broadcasting. This question also came up during Congressman Conaway's remarks about really the future of farm programs. I mean, you've seen the gamut from your Freedom to Farm efforts on the House Ag Committee to then, moving towards more market orientation. We've had a lot of twists and turns along that path, to the evolution of crop insurance as a key component of the farm safety net. But now we've got a whole different situation with COVID. Do you see us returning to what had been more of a directional, market-oriented farm safety net anytime soon?
What do you mean by a traditional farm safety net?
A market-oriented farm safety net, where we're moving away from government programs and more towards letting the market determine what is going to influence plantings.
Well, that was the plan back in '96, where the budget did not allow us to keep going with traditional farm programs, and we shouldn't have. With the government really telling farmers what to plant, how to plant, when to plant. And it was the Ford County wheat growers and a guy named Leon Torline who I went back, as I did every week back when I was in my earlier years in the House. And then I became chairman, and I said, guys, we don't have the money. We simply do not have the money given the political circumstances. And Leon stood up in the back. He says, Pat, we don't need to be paying farmers for not growing anything. How do you explain that? And it's counterproductive. If you have a set aside, why you're asking our competitors, boom, you just give them a green light to produce more than we set aside. So that, in a world market. And so he stood up and said, just give me the freedom to farm, my own farm. Let me make those decisions. I thought that was a mighty sounding good thing, so we called it Freedom to Farm, and it still exists. We haven't taken that away. We've messed around with it a little bit, but we haven't taken that away. And the other thing that you mentioned was crop insurance. I cannot tell you, we have the PLC program with the ARC program. If you don't have crop insurance, that was the #1 issue that Deborah and I found as we went to hearings before we did any farm program. The #1 issue. And it's always under attack because people want to use it as a bank. For that matter, you have a whole bunch of people who will never vote for a farm program. And then you have always the theory, well, why don't we take the nutrition title out of the farm program if you do not have the nutritional title in, and oh, by the way, the Department of Agriculture runs it better than any other agency that it would, whatever agency would want to grab onto it, and other committee. So it all comes together. Now, I've been through 8 farm bills. In each and every one of them, we heard people cast doubt on our ability to pass a farm bill. Each and every one, more especially this last one. And yet we achieved more votes than we ever had before. The reason for that is people like yourself, more especially Agri-Pulse, and the whole farm network of broadcasters, and also the other communication media, and more especially yourself, and then all of the farm organizations, all the commodity groups. We knew we had to ride together, hang together or hang separately. And in addition, we had that final farm bill, we had over 1,000 people, 1,000 different organizations behind it. It will happen again because people understand the value and the importance of passing a farm bill in behalf of the beleaguered farmer, rancher, and grower. Now, I'm not happy with our current trade policy, and I wish we could get back to a situation where we really focus on trade. I think we're into the period that if we do get the CCC funding, and we'll get that done, or face very bad consequences. I think we're close to 50, 60, 70 billion dollars that's coming from the government. I hope that we could have a breakthrough on that policy. China's still buying product. We just saw the increase in soybeans, the soybean price. I hope that could be a much broader increase with farm income. By the way, there's no federal program that you can think of that would be a benefit better than farm income. So there, I got, you asked me a question I have some strong feelings about. Thank you.
Well, you've been a great champion for so many in agriculture, and I have to say, for those of us in the media too, you've always been one who has returned our phone calls, including times when I couldn't answer the phone, and I have some of the most memorable voicemails I have ever received from someone of your stature that I will cherish for a very long time. I know that you're going to be retiring at the end of this year, so as we wrap up, I just want to share that we're so grateful for your leadership and the many times that you've been able to inform this debate and enable us to do our jobs, and that is to help educate others, farmers and ranchers, and those who are watching this space. We did something a little unusual in that, we would have loved to all be in person and having you and other members of the congressional delegation, Senator Stabenow and Chairman Peterson and Member Conaway, but instead we set something your way.
Here, I'll get out of the way. There you are. I'm leaning right. I know I'm leaning right. I know on the screen I'm leaning left. I don't do that. I think everybody knows that. But anyway, thank you for the thank you. And as I go over the individual thank yous, these are all personal friends. And I will repeat, Senator Carlson taught me this a long time ago. He was senior senator prior to Dole, and I worked for him as his chief of staff. There are no self-made men or women in public office. It's your friends who make you what you are. Every one of these notes are from friends. And we're friends who have decided to be in common purpose. And even though that we have a pandemic of politics on top of the pandemic, we'll get through this. The Kansas motto is ad astra per aspa, to the stars through difficulty. We're not in a very good place right now, but we'll get it done. And we'll get it done because we've done it before and we can do it again.
Well, thank you again, and I appreciate, I hope you enjoy the card and the personal messages. You also just got one from former Senator and former Secretary of Agriculture, Mike Johans, who sent you a note on chat here saying that it's just been a tremendous pleasure to work with you in the Senate. So there's
I'll tell you what with Mike, he was a great secretary, he was a great senator, and retired too early. I have talked with him, and he said I should have joined him back then, but I wouldn't have had the sheer joy of getting the 218 Farm Bill and working with Senator Stabenow to get that done. We did have we do have a great partnership in that effort. That's one thing about it. Farm bills have to be bipartisan. So thank you so much. Thank you for your very kind comments. Thank you for the thank yous.